Hello everyone, welcome to SAP Technomaniac. In my last video, we saw the ABAP specific session variable in SAP HANA. We see like we are having in ABAP the system variable like client, username, language, date, time. There are n number of system variable in ABAP. In the same way, we have in HANA SQL script language also global variables like client, CDS underscore client, application user, local underscore SAP which is stored the language, SAP underscore system underscore date which is stored the date. And we saw how when we call the CDS views or AMDP, then this value is copied from the system variable to HANA global variable. One important thing we see that the client and CDS client, there are two client in the global variable, but we have system mandate in ABAP. So normally the SIM mandate value will be passed to the client and CDS client both, but we have one AMDP options. We see that AMDP option CDS session client where we pass the particular client the different client than the what we are using the current client, then this value will be set to the CDS underscore client, and client will be always having the current client. These all things we talked in my last video. In this video we'll see when we have to use this CDS session client, what is the use of this CDS underscore client in the HANA database. To understand the AMDP options CDS session client, we will create quickly one AMDP class and AMDP function implementation. Inside that we will call one CDS view in our select statement instead of calling normal ABAP table and view. So let's create one AMDP class. I will give some name ZCL underscore AMDP client handling. I can put client. So I will give the same name description, Control V, click on next button and just give some TR and click on finish button. To make the any class as a AMDP class, we have to declare one AMDP marker interface in the public section. What we will do, if AMDP underscore marker control space HANA database. For HANA database we are creating, so that is the reason marker underscore HDB. In future some other database will support the AMDPs. This HDB will be replaced with the other database. So we declared this interface in the public section. We have to create, Control X, Control V, and quickly we create one method means AMDP procedure where we call the CDS normal DDIC based CDS view directly to get the data. So what I will do, I will define the class method itself, so I can call easily those methods, no need to instantiate those methods. Get data CDS, and I will, so obviously to make sure we have to pass some client, so I will pass some client. So I will get actually from the client from the program. So here it will be the importing parameter. So importing parameter IV underscore CLNT, and what will be the client importing value. I have to use like this value IV underscore client CLNT, and that should be type of time mandate MNDT. And another value I will get, I need to get the data from some CDS view. For that purpose I will use some existing CDS which I have created in my older videos. So I will go with the not CDS entity, I will go with the DDIC based CDS view, and later point of time I will show you how it will impact the CDS entity as well. So you don't know what is the difference between the CDS view entity and the DDIC based CDS, just go and watch out my previous video. Link is there in the description also, and in the upper button also there. So let me in the cards. So let me open one existing DDIC based CDS view which we have created in our older video. Let me load entire data, load full content, So there is a lot of CDS view I have created, but I will use some basic view, which DDIC view. In my CDS view first class we have created this view. So what I will do, let me minimize this one. Let me open here this one. So what I will do, I will get this data basically from this CDS view. So for getting this data, I need the type of this variable, Control C. Let me declare some table type, because structure we can't use in the importing and exporting parameter of the AMDP function. So we have to declare some table parameter. So what I will do, tt underscore Control V GCDS sample one, type table of Control V. Okay, and I will exporting this parameter. I will import the client and IT underscore, since this is sales order related data, I will put IT underscore SO. That type should be again the type of this table type, Control C, Control V. Let me do step 1. Let me little bit decrease this size. So we are getting one error, implementation is missing. Just you have to click on Control 1 and create the implementation for this particular method. So let me take this one here so we can easily see the data. So let me put this one here. So we declared the class method. As of now it's normal method. Let's convert this normal method to the AMDP procedure. How to convert? You already know, by database procedure. For which database? For HANA database. In which language we want to develop? This language will be SQL script. HANA database, they write the AMDP procedure SAP internally in L language also, but we are using, for the customer, we use always SQL script language. So obviously it will say AMDP method implementation is missing. We have to write some code. We have to get this data, IT underscore SO. What I will do, Control V, and where I want to get from this data, I want to get from this particular CDS view. Control C. So what I will do, select all from this particular view, where I want to pass this client as well. So where mandate AMDT equal to, and importing parameter, Control C, Control V. Because as we already know, the SQL, in the SQL script, there will be no implicit client handling. We have to pass explicitly client, otherwise it will fetch the data from all the clients with the normal table when we are working with. But in the CDS case, first fix some of the errors which we are getting. What error we are getting here? This is unknown. Obviously, as I told you, this is this particular CDS view part of ABAP schema. So we have to using all the object which is we are using from the ABAP schema which we are using currently. So from other schema when we are getting, no need to use those objects in the using, but if we are using getting the data from the current schema, all the objects whichever we have used in our AMDP procedure implementation needs to declare here. So I have declared this one. So still I am getting the error. The error is saying this particular CDS is client specified. If you open this particular CDS view, we have specified we have done the client handling here. It should be inherited. I explained how the client handling work in the CDS. If you don't know, you can watch out that video. Normally inherited means it will take from where we are getting the data from. So suppose we are getting from VBAK and VBAP, both are client dependent, so the CDS will become automatically client dependent CDS view. And the session variable and auto, this algorithm also I have already explained in one of the previous video. You can go and watch out that video. So in this case we are calling this client specified restriction is there. So what it is telling, and restrict access to the single client, the calling of AMDP method must also allow this restriction. We have to put the restriction here as well when we are calling this particular CDS view in our AMDP procedure. But how to put that restriction? So here we will use that AMDP option will be used. What I will put AMDP options, and what is the CDS session client, and what is the current. I can use the current client, or I can use I can specify some specific client also. So as of now I have used the current client. I will show you what is the difference when we are fetching the data. Still we are getting there, that error got removed. Some other error we are getting. What is the error? It is telling whatever the data we are getting from this particular CDS view, and whatever you have declared in ITSO, this particular ITSO, it should be ETSO since it is exporting, then naming convention, but still it will say the data whatever you are getting here and the data whatever you define here mismatch. Because why it is? There is no mandate field over here, but here we have defined the mandate field. What is the solution for that? The type needs to be changed. In this, if you open this particular DDIC, as you know, from the DDIC based CDS view, whenever we create the DDIC based CDS view, it will create one SQL view in the SE11. So in that SQL view we have that mandate field. If you open this one, we have, apart from these fields, we have one additional field, mandate field. Let me show you that also. You just have to click control click, it will open one another session. There it will open in SAP GUI, since that SQL, this is the SQL view, and that we can see apart from this field we have one additional field called mandate. But in this, if I have specified the type is this one, in this field I don't have any mandate field. So that is the thing, that is the reason it is telling that the type whatever you are fetching the data and whatever you have defined in your exporting parameter, both are not matched. So what I will do, simply I will use the type of this one instead of using this one. I think now you can see error got removed. Now we are getting the same mandate field as well. In the output also we will see the mandate also. So as I told you, the client handling will not done in the implicitly in the AMDP procedure. We have to handle everything. We have to pass client or not, we have to get client or not, all the things we have to do explicitly in the SQL script language. So we got the data. Let me activate control F3. So as I told you how to specify this is the very important thing, how to specify the CDS session client. Then the important thing is that why we need to specify the CDS session client. As you know, we have used the algorithm as a session variable. So whenever we use the algorithm as a session variable, that time the global variable of the SAP HANA SQL script language, the CDS underscore client session CDS underscore client, this particular, there is client and one more variable is also there. If I want to show you guys, I just want to show you, that is the reason. Session, it will be not visible. Let me put session underscore. If you do space, I think that client is not available because it's a CDS client is there, the session CDS client is not there. So it will be not accessible here in ABAP, but in the HANA SQL script language, as I showed you in last video also, there is two. One is the client and second one is the CDS underscore client. So CDS underscore client field will be set by that particular this particular AMDP CDS session client that I showed you in my last video. So that field will be set as soon and that field session underscore CDS underscore client is used whenever we use the session variable as an algorithm. That CDS underscore client will be used in where condition of this particular in particular when we are calling in the select statement. So it will be like that, where when it will convert in the SQL script language, so it will add explicitly here whenever we call this CDS, where the mandate equal to session underscore context and CDS underscore CLIENT client Like that it will edit whenever the, I just showed you, whenever we call the any CDS view, when it will be executed in the back end by the application server, this particular CDS client, since we didn't pass here client, whenever we execute this one, we will not pass any client, but from the field, the CDS underscore client field of the global variable of the HANA, it will be set by the SAP to the it, either it will be taken from the SI mandate, or if you are passing if you are calling this CDS in select statement, if you are calling using client, that time the client field will be, that particular client will be passed to the CDS underscore client. So either two value, either it can have current client value, and if you are calling the CDS view using the select statement using client, that time that value will be passed to the CDS client. But client, there is another session context variable is called client as well, that will be set always to the current client, but CDS underscore client will be set to the current client, but it will change when we are using either using client, and when we use in AMDP, when we call this particular select statement, this CDS underscore client will be set by the value what we pass in this current. Either it will be current, if you want to pass some other client, you have to give that client value over here. Let me call this particular AMDP procedure in one of our program and see the result, how the result is impacting. So what I will do, let me activate this one, Control F3, and let me open my one of the program where we used to consume the CDS view. So let me open the programs. Load full content, it is not opening. Yeah, so we have used this one last in my last session also, last video also, I can say. So let me comment it out, where we saw that how the if you pass the 800 client, how the CDS client got set. If you want to watch out that video, that I have clearly explained when the CDS underscore client will be set and when the client is set. Control shift less than. In this video we will call this particular method directly of this Control C. Since we have declared as a control space, there is one step enter. So you can pass the client as a SI mandate, and we will use the inline declaration control shift greater than data to get the data LT underscore, or I can say IT underscore SO. And I will display simply this data using the CL demo output. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. Shift F1, Control F3, and let me do F9. Let me clear out the console first. Let me do again F9. So let me go up. So you can see we got the data. So what it is happening, we pass the current client SI mandate, and here also we have current client. So even through this condition session context is added current client over here. So we got the data. But suppose instead of passing here current client, I would have passed here some other client. I want to get the data from the 800 client, not from the current client. 200 client is my current client, but I want to get the data from the other client, 800 client. Let me activate Control F3 and let me do F9. Clear out the console. Let me do F9. So you can see I didn't get even single data. Why I didn't get? What happened? When you pass the current client over here in I mandate, you have passed 800 over here. But when the CDS view got executed at the database, then this particular condition got added there. In this particular CDS client, currently we are having the value as a current client. So here we are passing when we are fetching the data from the CDS, that time we are passing current client 200, and once we got the data, then further we are applying this condition IV client is a 800. There is no data related to 800. So ultimately we didn't get the data at all. But how to solve this problem? Simple. Just whenever you define the CDS session client, instead of defining the current client, you have to always define the client which you are passing. Control C, Control V. So what it will do, it will set the CDS underscore client value as this client, whatever you are passing that particular client. In that way, whenever you fetch the data from the CDS view, then this condition will be applied on the CDS view. When it will be applied? When you are using the algorithm as a session variable. That's very important. And for this is related to DDIC based CDS view. For the CDS entity, by default, always the algorithm as a session variable. So no need to worry. But here, when we use the algorithm as a session variable, this particular condition is applied explicitly here on the where when we get the data from the CDS view. But for regarding entities where we no need to define the client handling, by default SAP do the client handling. How it will do? If you want to know, watch out my last video. I explained in very detail how the client handling is done in case of CDS entities. Okay, so in this case, what I will do, so I made the changes. I pass the current client. Let me activate Control F3. In this case, I will pass the client as the 800 only. If I am passing 800, this value will be passed to the here 800, and the CDS client also set to the 800. So both are 800. When I do F9, obviously I should get some result. Let me do F9. We got the data. As you know, we are passing the 800 client over here, and further in this CDS session client, we are passing 800 only, and further it down we pass here as well 800. And when in the CDS view this condition is applied, then when the CDS client is used, the CDS client value set from the CDS session client, and this is also 800. So let me show you quickly how this where condition will be added. So when you click on that CDS view and you right click over there and click on show SQL create statement, then you can see this where condition got added. When it will be added? When algorithm used session variable. When you right click show SQL create statement, then this particular mandate will be compared with the session context CDS client. And how if we don't set this client variable from using this, or if you set to different client, then there will be the misdifference between whatever we are passing in this IV client and whatever the value in the CDS client. In that case, we will not get that. We will not get the data at all. That already we saw in the second when we executed second time. So let me use, instead of algorithm session variable, let me use some other automated algorithm. It will do automatic client handling. And when you do the show SQL create statement, this time you can see there is no where condition added for the client. You can see there is no client session context net. We are getting this data, but there is no where condition at all. So in this case, no need to worry. But whenever we are using the algorithm is a session variable, and we try to see this SQL create statement, that time it got added this where condition. But this is for the DDIC based CDS view. But if you open any normal view, suppose which is not DDIC based, CDS entity I am talking about. So let me open one CDS entity also, and let me minimize again this one. As you know what is DDIC based CDS view, if you are following me throughout this HANA series, then you already know what is the difference between the DDIC based CDS view and what is the view entity. If you don't know, you can watch out my previous video. I explain in very deep detail. So if you right click, as I told you, we no need to do here client handling client handling annotation using the client. It will be done implicitly. So if you right click over here and you try to see the show SQL create statement, it will always add this session, this particular mandate as a CDS client, because by default this algorithm for the CDS entities, by default the algorithm will be the session variable. Okay, it will be added in the where condition mandate session variable. So that is the reason whenever we try to get the data from the CDS view, this condition will get added and this particular CDS underscore client value will be used in the where condition, and then the data we will get. If the value of the CDS underscore client is incorrect, obviously we will not get the data correctly. In this case, if we pass the CDS session client as a current and we pass here some other client, both client got mismatched. So here we got the data from the current client, but here we pass 800 client, both got mismatched and we didn't get the data at all. So like this way, whenever we are calling the any CDS view inside our AMDP, we have to make sure these things. So let me thoroughly go to some of the basic points. First, whenever we are doing the AMDP does not support the implicit client handling. That is the reason I told you we have to add explicitly in the where condition also. If we want to get that mandate field, then we have to add explicitly in our selection list as well. Otherwise, we will not get that field. So we have to do the client handling explicitly. Second important point, we should pass the client in the parameter interface. Whenever we are calling, we have to pass that. Whenever we are getting the data from the AMDP procedures or AMDP functions, we have to pass the data, this importing parameter is a current client or whatever the client, if you want to get that client, we have to pass mandatory. But important thing, when we have to use this AMDP option as a CDS session client, when we are calling some CDS entity or DDIC based CDS view inside our AMDP functions and procedure, that time we have to use this AMDP option. Apart from that, one more case, when we call another AMDP procedures and another AMDP function that we will discuss in my next video, that time also we have to define this AMDP option CDS session client. Before going to that video, please like this video, share these videos with others as well, so they can also learn. And with that, thank you and happy learning.